That night, she was smiling. A warm, radiant smile. But it wasn't for me. I woke up at 2 a.m. The bed beside me was cold. Darkness pressed in on the room, broken only by the faint glow spilling through the crack under the door. I almost turned over to sleep again. But then, I heard it. A soft laugh. A laugh I hadn't heard from Lily in so long. I got up, each step heavy as stone. Lily was sitting on the sofa, her hair falling loose around her face, her eyes bright in the blue light of her phone screen. She was laughing. That gentle, warm laugh, the one I had been aching to see for months, but it had never been for me. I started to turn away, thinking I should give her space. But then, the screen lit up brighter as a new message came in. I didn't want to read it, but the words screamed at me, clear as if someone had shouted them in the middle of the night. You make me feel alive again, not just existing like I do with my husband. My throat went dry. My heart pounded so hard, each beat thudded in my ears like a drum. My hands trembled. I clenched the wedding ring on my finger. Cold. Empty. I stood there, caught between shadow and light, a stranger, in my own home. Lily kept typing, her face glowing with a happiness she hadn't shown me in so long. And in that moment, I understood. This ring on my finger, it was nothing more than a meaningless band of metal. I turned back into the bedroom, slipped the ring off my finger, placed it on the nightstand. It spun once, twice, then fell still. Silent. Like my heart. I took off my wedding ring, not because I stopped loving her, but because the woman wearing hers is no longer the woman I knew. My name is Andrew. I'm 38, a freelance architect. If you'd met me a few years ago, you would have seen a simple man. Quiet. Reserved. But there was a spark in my eyes whenever I talked about my work and about the woman I loved, Lily. We met on a rainy day at a seminar on green spaces and urban architecture. I was there just to listen. But she stood in front of hundreds of people, presenting with a steady voice, bright eyes, and an energy that filled the whole room. When her talk ended, she walked straight toward me, the man sitting quietly in the corner, a cold cup of coffee in hand. She smiled and asked, "So, what do you think about rooftop gardens?" That one question turned into a 2-hour conversation. And eventually, a relationship that lasted 10 years. Lily was 3 years younger than me. At the time, she was managing a rising restaurant, her schedule packed with work and lively nights out with friends. I was different. I craved stillness. I'd rather stay home with a book than squeeze into a noisy party. Some said we were two different worlds. But somehow, that distance became our gravity. I believed we were two odd-shaped pieces that fit together perfectly. We married after 2 years of dating. A small beach wedding, just like Lily had dreamed. She wanted to hear the waves crashing as we said our vows. That day, she wore a white dress, barefoot in the sand, her hair dancing in the breeze, smiling so brightly, it felt like even the sky dimmed to let her shine. I promise to always be your shoulder, even if the whole world turns its back on you. That's what I said, as I slipped the ring onto her finger. And I believed I would keep that promise. The first years of marriage were beautiful. Mornings in our little kitchen, making breakfast together, arguing over who brewed the better coffee. Nights on the balcony, Lily with her laptop, me sketching a new design, her head resting against my shoulder. But then, the late nights started. At first, she'd text me, "Don't wait up." I'll try to be home soon, but slowly. Even those messages stopped. I found myself sitting alone in the living room, night after night, listening to cars outside, wondering quietly, does she even want to come home anymore? Used to think, if life stayed like this, I'd be happy forever. But I didn't realize we'd already started drifting apart. I remember one night. Lily came home late after a dinner with her business partners. She sat down beside me on the sofa, her face still carrying that hurried energy. There was a faint scent of unfamiliar perfume trailing behind her movements, not the fragrance I knew so well. "You're still up?" she asked, her eyes glued to her phone, fingers gliding lightly over the screen. "I was waiting for you. You didn't have to. My job doesn't really follow a schedule," she sighed. Her voice was light, almost casual, like I was just another small item on her endless to-do list. I didn't say anything more. In my heart, I kept telling myself, it's just a phase. When things settle down, she'll come back to me, like before. But deep down, I knew some cracks, once they appear, are almost impossible to mend. Day by day, the space between us grew wider, like a hairline fracture silently spreading. Shared dinners became rare. The morning hugs disappeared. And our conversations shrunk to work, bills, and half-hearted replies. I tried once to reach out. "How about we get away this weekend? I found this quiet cabin by the lake, and I can't, Andrew. The restaurant's opening a new branch this month. I don't have time to leave." Her voice cut through mine, cold enough to make me swallow the rest of my sentence. I forced a smile, nodded, as if I'd grown used to her rejections. That night, as I cleared the dinner table, my hand brushed against Lily's empty chair. It was still faintly warm, but the space beside me felt so cold, it made my chest ache. I stood there for a long while, staring at the napkin she'd left behind, carelessly tossed, until the streetlight streaming through the window snapped me out of my thoughts. Her phone lit up with a new message. "You looked stunning tonight. I wish I could have stayed with you a little longer." I didn't read further. I'm not the kind of man who snoops through her things or demands answers. But those words burned into my mind like a fine scratch, subtle, yet deep enough that I knew it would shatter with just one more blow. I wanted to ask her, "Lily, do you still love me?" I almost said it that night, when she walked into the room, her hair tousled, the faint smell of alcohol clinging to her. But as I looked at her tired face, I stayed silent. And that was my biggest mistake. In the days that followed, I tried to convince myself, it was all in my head, that Lily still loved me. That work and the weight of life had simply pulled her a little too far away, and soon she'd find her way back. But my heart wasn't as easily fooled as my mind. Friday night, I came home earlier than usual, hoping to surprise Lily. I brought her favorite bottle of wine and all the ingredients for the pasta she once called the best in the world. The house felt unnaturally still. The warm glow of the table lamp spread across the ceiling, soft, golden, but empty. Her phone buzzed on the table. The screen lit up. "I hate sharing you. When will you finally have the courage to leave your husband?" I froze. Those few words, sharp as a blade, cut through the thin layer of calm I'd been clinging to for months. The phone buzzed again. Another message appeared. "If you won't choose me, say it, so I can start learning to forget." My grip tightened around the wine bottle. My chest burned, like someone had poured boiling water straight into it. Hundreds of questions screamed in my head, but all of them fell silent as the front door creaked open. Lily stepped in. She looked tired, but still carried that familiar glow. Her eyes widened slightly when she saw me. "You're home early?" "Yeah. I thought I'd make dinner for us." My voice cracked, dry and heavy. She set her bag down and hurried toward her phone. I stood still, watching her every move. "I'm sorry I've been coming home late. Work's just been overwhelming." Her voice trembled slightly, but her eyes never left the screen. Her fingers moved quickly, like she was trying to erase a part of her world she didn't want me to see. I took a deep breath, my lips dry as sand, and finally let out the question I'd been burying for far too long. "Lily, do you still love me?" She froze. The air grew heavy, so heavy I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my chest. Lily turned, her eyes glistening, but not from emotion. From anger. "Andrew, what the hell are you saying? Of course I love you." Don't you trust me? I want to, Lily. God, I really want to. But I can't feel it anymore. My voice cracked, barely holding itself together. She stood there, clutching her phone so tightly, her knuckles turned white. Then she spun around, stormed into the bedroom, and slammed the door so hard, the picture frame on the wall rattled. I stood frozen, still gripping the wine bottle, like a lifeline. But deep down, I knew this ship was already sinking. I walked toward the bedroom door, lifted my hand to knock, but stopped. Inside, I heard her voice, soft, breaking. I don't know what to do anymore. I'm so tired, Mason. Mason. The name struck me, like a hammer to the skull. I used to think the worst pain was seeing the woman you love cry. But no, the real pain is when her tears aren't for you. Hey. That night, I knew I was losing everything. But I didn't realize just how deep the cut would go. I don't know how long I stood outside the bedroom door. All I know is, by the time Lily's sobs went quiet, my heart felt so hollow, I didn't even have the strength to be angry anymore. I turned back to the living room, poured myself a glass of wine, and collapsed onto the sofa. In the dim, yellow light, the room, once warm and familiar, now felt like a place I never really belonged. That night, I didn't sleep. I listened to Lily's footsteps in the bedroom, the sound of drawers opening and closing softly, as if she was afraid of waking me. But she didn't know. I was awake the whole time, waiting for an explanation. It never came. The next morning, Lily left the house early. When I walked into the kitchen, there was only a hastily scribbled note. I'm heading to the restaurant. Don't wait for me at breakfast. No apology. No explanation. I sat down at the table, my fingers brushing against the chair she always sat in. The warmth from last night had already faded. I stared at the empty space across from me, the space where a woman once smiled and said, "You're my home, Andrew. The place I'll always come back to." That evening, Lily came home late again. She walked in, her perfume stronger than usual, her eyes darting away from mine. I stood in the middle of the living room. The bottle of wine from the night before still sat on the table, red drops pooling at the bottom of the glass, like congealed blood. "Lily, you and Mason," my voice rasped, dry and heavy. She froze, her eyes widening for a split second, then dropped to the floor. "Andrew, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to get this far." "How long?" "About 4 months." Her voice cracked. I clenched my fists, trying to keep my voice from breaking apart. One side of my face burned hot, but I turned away, so she wouldn't see. "Tell me what I did wrong, Lily." "I can fix it. Just tell me." My voice trembled, sounding almost like I was begging. "You didn't do anything wrong." She let out a soft, bitter laugh. A laugh that felt foreign. "I don't even know when it happened, but every time I'm with you, I feel stuck. And with Mason, I feel alive." Her words cut clean through my chest, cold and sharp, like a blade pressed straight to my heart. I let out a shaky laugh, my shoulders quivering. "Did you even try talking to me? Or did you just sneak around to feel alive?" "Or don't say that." "I never wanted to hurt you. But I can't keep hurting myself either." I looked at the woman standing before me, the one who once promised to walk beside me till the end. Now she felt like a stranger, like someone I'd never even known. So choose. Mason or me. Lily stayed silent. Her eyes drifted to the window, where the streetlights flickered in the night. Then they came back to me. "Andrew, I'm sorry, but I can't keep pretending to love you anymore." I stood there, my hands hanging limply at my sides. The wedding ring on my finger felt heavier than ever, like it weighed 100 pounds. That night, I realized the deepest pain wasn't that she chose someone else. It was that she no longer chose me. After that night, everything between Lily and me changed. We still lived under the same roof, still passed each other in the narrow hallway, but silence had replaced every word. In the mornings, Lily left before I even woke up. The cup of coffee I made for her sat untouched on the table, cold. At night, she came home late. When I asked, "How was your day?" she simply said, "Fine," then vanished into the bedroom, leaving me alone, in a kitchen that felt emptier than ever. I started questioning myself. Was I too dull? Too unromantic? Too unlike Mason? I dug through old photos of us, tracing my finger gently over Lily's smiling face. This was the woman who once held my hand so tightly, whispering, "Promise me you'll never let me go." But now, I didn't know if that hand still wanted to stay. Saturday night. I gathered every ounce of courage to prepare a quiet dinner for the two of us. On the table, a bouquet of white lilies, her favorite flower. When Lily walked in, she froze for a moment. "You did all this? I want us to talk." My voice was low, but steady with resolve. She sat down, her hands resting lightly on the table. I looked deep into her eyes, searching for even a flicker of the light I once saw there. "I know I'm not perfect. I know I got so caught up in work that I forgot how to love you like I used to. But I'm still here, ready to fix things, if you'll let me." She was quiet for a long time, then finally said, "Andrew, I wish it were that simple. But my heart, it doesn't listen to me anymore." Her phone buzzed on the table. Lily flinched, quickly flipping it over. But not before I saw the name on the screen. Mason. I took a deep breath, my throat tightening, voice breaking. "You're still talking to him?" "Andrew, don't make me choose right now." I'm so tired. I clenched my fists on the table, my nails digging into my palms, until pain shot up my arm. "I'm not asking you to choose. I just need to know how much of you still wants to save this marriage." Lily buried her face in her hands. Tears fell onto the bouquet of lilies between us. "Don't ask me that, Andrew. I don't want to hurt you. But I don't know how to stop hurting myself either." I stared at the woman across from me, the woman who once meant the world to me. Now she felt like a stranger. That night I realized nothing is more terrifying than loving someone whose heart left you long ago. The air between Lily and me felt like a wire, stretched so tight that even the slightest touch could snap it in two. Since that day, we barely spoke. Lily buried herself in work and in those secret phone calls. And I pretended not to notice. But every night, I lay awake in the dark, eyes wide open, heart pounding. Sometimes, I heard her soft laughter on the phone, a gentle sound I hadn't heard from her in a long, long time. That evening, when Lily came home, I was sitting in the living room. The room was dark, lit only by the faint glow of the table lamp. She froze for a moment, surprised to see me awake. "I thought you were asleep," she said softly, her voice a little uneasy. I couldn't sleep. She walked into the kitchen, poured herself a glass of water. I watched her familiar silhouette, and in my chest rose a storm of emotions: love, resentment, longing, and an ache to finally let go. "Lily," my voice cracked, raw and heavy. She turned to face me, her eyes glistening in the dim light. "I'm sorry if these past months I've been distant, if I made you feel alone." "Andrew," she started to speak, but I raised my hand slightly. "Please, let me finish. I still love you. Even now, I want to hold on, if you want to stay. But I can't cling to someone whose heart is already somewhere else." Her tears welled up, one falling down her cheek, catching the warm light, like a shard of glass. "You don't understand, Andrew. I'm hurting too. I never wanted to hurt you, but the longer I stay, the more I feel like I'm breaking apart." I clenched my fists, nails biting into my palms, until I felt a sharp sting of pain. My throat tightened, but I forced my voice to stay steady. "I don't want you to stay out of guilt. I just need you to be honest with me. How much of your heart is still mine?" The room fell silent. I could hear the clock ticking on the wall, each second clawing at my chest. "Andrew, I'm sorry. I don't love you the way I used to. I closed my eyes. A single hot tear slipped down my face. I couldn't remember the last time I cried like this. Maybe 20 years ago, when my mother passed. I love you, Lily. So much. I'd rather let you go, if that's what makes you happy. But I don't know how to live in a world where you're no longer mine. Then, I won't keep you here anymore. My voice was low, breaking with every word. Lily sobbed, her muffled cries filling the house that once echoed with laughter. Andrew, I did love you. But somewhere along the way, that love slipped away. I understand. I took a deep breath, my shoulders trembling. If that's the truth, I won't hold on, just to make us both suffer more. I stood up, slid the wedding ring off my finger, and placed it gently on the table, beside the sofa. I love you, Lily. But I can't keep someone who no longer wants to stay. Tomorrow, I'll leave this house. I turned away, my steps heavy, each one pulling at my heart like an anchor. And in my head, one quiet question echoed. When I walk away, will I be leaving everything behind? Or will I carry a wound that never truly heals? I left that house on a rainy afternoon. My suitcase sat by the door, its handle cold and rigid in my grasp. I glanced around the living room one last time. The sofa where we used to watch movies every night, our wedding photo on the wall, and the vase of lilies, now wilted and gray. You're really leaving? Lily's voice came from behind me, shaky, as if it took every ounce of strength to say those words. I froze. My hand tightened on the suitcase handle, until my knuckles turned white. I have to, Lily, because if I stay, both of us will stay trapped in this pain. Andrew, I'm sorry. Her voice broke, splintering like thin glass. For a moment, my vision blurred. I turned my head slightly, hiding the tear that slipped down my cheek. I never thought I'd have to turn my back on the person I loved most. But sometimes, loving someone means letting go. I stepped out, rain tapping gently on the porch roof. As I rolled my suitcase down the steps, I heard hurried footsteps behind me. Andrew, wait! I stopped. My heart pounded, my chest tight as if an invisible hand was squeezing it. She stood there, hair soaked, eyes red and swollen. Don't go. I don't know what I want. But the thought of losing you, it hurts. I turned to her, my eyes locking onto hers. In those eyes, I saw conflict, a storm of emotions, and something I couldn't quite name. Are you hurting because you're afraid to lose me? Or because you can't bear to lose him? Lily bit her lip hard, tears streaming freely now. Andrew, I don't know. I only know, if you walk out that door, I may never find my way back to loving you again. She held up her phone. The screen glowed with an unread message. Mason, I'm waiting for your answer. Are you ready to leave everything behind? For me? Andrew, I haven't replied to him. I don't know what to do. I took a deep breath. My voice trembled slightly, but stayed firm. You don't need to answer him. But you do need to answer yourself. What do you want? And who do you still love? I turned away, my steps heavy, the sound of rain mixing with my shallow breaths. Each step felt like it drained the little strength I had left. I walked away, but my heart stayed trapped, right where she stood. Rain poured down in heavy sheets, hammering against the porch roof. I kept walking, each step heavier than the last, like I was dragging twice, 3 times my own weight. Andrew, wait! Lily's voice cut through the rain, fragile and breaking, like it took everything in her, just to call my name. I stopped, but I didn't turn around. You asked me who I still love, and I couldn't answer. But I just realized, if I let you go, I'll lose more than I ever imagined. My hand clenched around the suitcase handle, fingers numb, my chest burning, as if an invisible hand was crushing it. Andrew, I don't even know what love is anymore. I'm tired. I'm lost. But one thing I do know, if I wake up tomorrow and you're not in that house, I'll regret it for the rest of my life. I turned. Rain streaked across my face, mingling with tears that burned hotter than the cold air around us. Lily, are you sure this is love? Or are you just afraid of losing the one safe place you have left? She choked back a sob, her tear-filled eyes locking onto mine. Andrew, I don't know. All I know is, if you walk out that door, I may never get the chance to love you again. I stared at her for a long moment. In her eyes, I saw a Lily more fragile than I'd ever known, and yet a Lily I could no longer recognize. I took a deep breath, my shoulders trembling, my voice breaking. Well, I love you enough to stay, but I love myself enough to know it's time to go. Andrew, don't go. I'll fix everything. Please, just give me one more chance, she sobbed, rushing forward, her small hands clutching mine tightly. I looked down at her fragile grip. A part of me wanted to let go of the suitcase, wrap my arms around her, and never let go. But my heart and mind were already split in two. I used to think, if I just tried a little harder, we could find our way back. But sometimes, trying harder only tears your heart apart more. Andrew, please, don't leave me in that house alone. I can't take it. Her voice cracked, her cries blending with the pounding rain. I slowly pried her fingers from mine, one by one, each movement, feeling like I was breaking a piece of myself. I'm sorry, but if you truly loved me, you wouldn't have let it come to this. I turned and walked away, her knees hitting the porch floor behind me, her sobs drowning in the storm. I left, but my heart stayed, right where she knelt in the rain, crying. My new apartment is small. Just enough space for a single bed, and a desk by the window. Every night, I sit there, watching the rain fall, wondering, is she crying alone in that old house? Or laughing softly in someone else's arms? In those first mornings without Lily, I still found myself brewing 2 cups of coffee. One for me, and one for her. It wasn't until the second cup went cold that it hit me. She's not here anymore. I let out a laugh, but it came out dry, hollow, echoing off the walls of that empty room. I tried to fill the void with work, with hours at the gym until my body ached, with dinners and drinks with friends I used to turn down. But at night, when the room went dark, all those efforts crumbled, leaving me face to face with one truth. She left, but the pain stayed. 3 months passed. I started keeping a journal, something I'd never done before. I wrote about how a man learns to stand after his heart's been shattered. Each line cut deep like a blade, but slowly, the wounds began to close. One afternoon, I parked outside the cafe, where we had our first date. I sat there, watching other couples laugh and talk. And for the first time, my chest didn't ache anymore. As I stood to leave, a voice called out behind me, quivering. Andrew, can we talk? I turned. It was Lily. She looked thinner than before, her eyes tired, but flickering with a faint hope. I took a deep breath, my hand tightening around my wallet. I'm not sure this is a good idea, but I'll listen. We sat across from each other. The table between us felt like a chasm, too wide to ever cross. Lily bowed her head, her voice barely above a whisper, as if she was afraid even she might hear it. Andrew, I left Mason. I thought he was the love I was searching for. But it turns out, he was just a fleeting passion that cost me everything that really mattered. I stayed silent for a long time. Inside, a voice whispered, let her go, Andrew. Set her free. And set yourself free, too. I don't want to hear about Mason. My voice was calm, but my chest tightened like a fist. I'm sorry. I was selfish. I don't know how to live if I lose you forever. Her tears fell, her thin shoulders trembling. I looked at the woman who was once my entire world. A part of me wanted to reach out and wipe her tears away. But another part of me knew forgiveness isn't about whether she deserves it. It's about whether I deserve to be free. I forgive you, Lily. Not to ease your heart, but to finally unburden mine. She looked up, her lips trembling. Do you ever wonder, if I hadn't betrayed you, what we could have been? I stood, my gaze drifting past the fogged window. We would have been happy, but that doesn't matter anymore. We sat across from each other. In that old cafe, the sound of rain tapping gently against the awning outside. No more tears. No more blame. Just two people who once loved each other deeply, now looking at each other like strangers. Lily forced a smile, but her eyes still carried a quiet sadness. Andrew, I thought you'd hate me forever. I shook my head slowly. I did hate you once. But then I realized, hatred only keeps you stuck in the past, while you had already moved on. Are you happy now? Her voice trembled, barely above a whisper. I stayed silent for a long moment, watching raindrops slide down the foggy glass. Happiness didn't come right after you left. It came slowly, piece by piece, as I learned how to love myself again. Lily bowed her head, her voice so soft, it was like she was afraid to hear herself speak. Andrew, is there someone else now? I drew a deep breath, my hands clasped tightly under the table. I used to think I'd never open my heart again. But then I met someone. She's not like you. She doesn't replace you. She walked in, when I no longer wanted anyone to stay. Do you love her? I looked straight into Lily's eyes, my voice low and steady, but faintly shaking. I do, but in a different way. It's calmer. And there's no fear of losing her. Lily's hands trembled, tears spilling into her cup of coffee, now cold and untouched. Andrew, if I had come back sooner, would things have been different? My throat tightened. A part of my heart wanted to say, yes. If you had come back sooner, but the rest of me knew, some doors, once closed, can never open the same way again. I shook my head gently, my voice breaking. I used to believe I couldn't live without you, but I was wrong. I can. I stood up, pulling on my coat. Before leaving, I looked at Lily one last time, my eyes soft, but resolute. I used to hope you'd regret losing me. But now, I just hope you find yourself. So one day, when you love again, you won't be so afraid to lose it. I stepped out into the street. Cold air kissed my skin. The rain had stopped. The gray sky was finally starting to lighten. Yet as some people come into your life, only to teach you how to let go, I stepped out of the old cafe. The rain had stopped, but the sky still hung heavy, painted in shades of ash gray. 3 months ago, I thought I'd die if I lost her. I believed this heart of mine would stay ruined forever after the storm named Lily. I remember the quietest, sweetest days, when she'd rest her head on my shoulder, whispering softly, You are my home. Back then, I believed we were everything to each other. But I've learned something since. No one can be home to someone else if they're not home to themselves first. There were nights I dreamt of Lily coming back. In the dream, she smiled brightly, reached her hand out to me. But as I moved closer, she dissolved into smoke, leaving me alone in a cold, endless void. When I woke, I didn't cry anymore. I just let out a long breath and reminded myself, no matter how beautiful a memory is, it's still just a memory. I forgave her. Not because she deserved it, but because I needed my freedom. I forgave her, not to open the door for her return, but to open the door so I could finally walk forward without the weight. Pain, it turns out, has its limits. When you've felt it to the very end, there's no more hatred left. Only a strange kind of peace, like an old scar, no longer hurting, but forever reminding you where the knife cut deepest. Some people come into your life to teach you how to love, and some to teach you how to let go. If you're listening to this at 3 a.m., alone, with a heart that feels like it's bleeding, I want to tell you something. Don't be afraid. When you lose someone who once felt like your whole world, the real world is always inside you, and you deserve to be loved, first and foremost, by yourself. I once loved someone more than I loved myself. This time, I'll love me first.